Welcome to the Mindset Mechanics Podcast with Juan and Ladybug Jenkins. It's not too late to find, face, and fix what's stalling you. The shop is open, so pull on in.
Welcome to Mechanical Monday. You are in the shop. I'm Ladybug.
And I am Juan
Jenkins.
And we are your Mindset Mechanics.
Reminding you that it's not too late to find, face, and fix what's stalling you.
In today's episode titled On the Curb, we are going to discuss the power of patience and how undervalued it can be. So, Ladybug, why don't you tell the crew listening what we mean?
Yes, sir. Patience is defined as the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, inconvenience, or suffering. And here's the key: without getting angry, overreacting, or getting upset. So, yes, without. So, Jay, can you give the audience, let's jump right in, an example of what a test of patience looks like in real life?
Yes, sure can. Okay, let's meet Greg. He desperately wants to be a law clerk for a local judge. He manages to land the interview. It is scheduled for 2 p.m. It was made clear to him that the judge really values timeliness. He shows up early. He is well dressed and has a great personality. The receptionist gets on the phone, announces that he is here, and hangs up. She tells him that the judge, Harris, will be with him as soon as he can. Greg sits and waits. 15 minutes pass. 30 minutes pass. 45 minutes pass. He's feeling anxious and a little disrespected. Whenever he makes eye contact with the receptionist, she smiles but doesn't say anything. Soon, he has been waiting for nearly an hour. What do you think he should do, Ladybug?
What do I think? Okay, this is tough because I personally love for things to run on time. And it's actually a pet peeve of mine when you have any kind of appointment or you have a situation where people's time has to come together or overlap. And the other person is not in place. You know, of course, the first thing I think about, you know, you're working at the hospital and the end of your shift comes, you've been there 12 hours, 16 hours, and it is time to go. And the person who is relieving you, they come in late and they have some bougie coffee in their hand, some pastry, some sandwich, and they're on their phone and they still have the audacity to stop at the desk or in the hallway and chat with somebody while you are sitting there waiting on them. So to me, it's disrespectful. It's like saying who I am, where I had to be, this coffee, and what I have to do is more important than you and where you have to be, even though your work is done. But I'm getting a little hyped. So, man, just go and tell us what happened to Greg. Man, tell us what happened to Greg.
Yeah. Well, Greg doesn't know that his interview started when he arrived at the courthouse. The judge has been in his office watching Greg this entire time. He knows that Greg is qualified to be his clerk, but he is actually looking for someone to mentor. He wants someone who is punctual and professional, but he's looking for someone who is patient. He knows that patience will be required. There will be a lot of waiting at airports and at functions and even on the golf course. He's looking to see if Greg has what it takes to maintain focus and character. So he's looking to see if he'll start fidgeting, scrolling on his phone, or flirting with the receptionist. You know, he knows that after almost an hour that Greg can definitely handle the demands of being taken under his wing.
Oh, wow. Poor Greg. But that is awesome. So by being patient properly, Greg is going to get a lot more than a job as a clerk. I love it.
Yeah, me too. Like you said, when you are defining patience, how do you tolerate waiting? And do you know how to wait well?
I do now. But for sure, you know, I remember the time that I spent on, you know, public transportation when I was in nursing school. You know, speaking of being on the curb, man, when you are, you know, waiting on a ride be it official, government, Uber, whatever it is. You had two types of people. You had those people that would be on the bench, or they would be standing under the overhang. They'd have a book, they'd have some music, and this was pre-cell phone, so people would actually have conversations with one another. We would start talking about something funny on TV or something that was in the news, and then you had these other people. They would be, off the curb, and they would be dipping out into the street. It like an old school. Remember that game Frogger? Dipping in and out, risking their life, stretching their neck, trying to see if the bus was coming around the corner. How far away is it? How many stops is it going to make? Like, any of that was going to get it to us any faster. And so all they did was aggravate themselves. They actually put themselves in danger, the way that people drove in South Florida. And it would just kind of aggravate the rest of us. So, yeah, I tell you what, that's wild.
I do not envy that.
No,
so I heard you said last week that you have quite the story about patience.
Yes, sir, I do. So when I was in college, I took a job at a psych hospital. I was back in school for my degree, but, I already had my LPN license. So I was working at this psych hospital, and I met a very handsome guy there when I was working there. He was working there as well on the other unit. I actually ended up marrying him. But anyway, so I was working there, and I worked with nurse Dee Dee. I will call her Dee Dee. So she worked the day shift, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the weekends, and I would come in at 7 p.m. to relieve her. And so, speaking of timeliness, I believe in being on time, but she gave report, and she was out of there on Saturday because she was a huge Walker, Texas Ranger fan. So she did not play about getting out of there on time on Saturday. And so, I worked with her for almost 2 years, and we got along really well. And I liked her, and she looked like a librarian, but she was really funny, and her personality didn't really match, the way she looked. And she had these huge thick glasses and this long brown ponytail. She was tall and skinny, but she was a good nurse, and she was so sweet. So we started to talk, a little bit about our personal lives. And I was telling her how I was a 25-year-old freshman in college, lived in a dorm, and we discussed all of that. And so Lisa had children, and, she was working to support them. So she had 2 jobs. She worked every weekend, and then she also worked during the week to support them. And so she told me that her husband, after many years of marriage and many children, that one day he was just like, what was that song back in the day when, oh boy, he would just meet a new girl and he would be like, so I'm leaving you, I'm out. And so he just abandoned her and the children, and he left them to be with another woman. And the woman had the audacity to taunt Dee Dee, to call her, and even showed up on her doorstep one day. I just want you to know, and this was before he left, your husband is indeed, leaving you for me, and we're going to be together. And so he did. Yeah, he did. And moved over the state line from Florida into Georgia, purchased a home, really nice vehicles, and then they started to have children. And if I'm not mistaken, they had 3. It was at least 2, but I believe they had 3. And they were like, bam, bam, bam. So these children were really young, and they were not that far apart in age from the children that he had with Dee Dee. And so she made it clear to me that she never badmouthed him to their children and all of that. And I was younger at the time, and I couldn't understand that, and I didn't want to hear that. But, I wasn't married yet and all of that. And I was not a mom. But she was like, no, I'm not going to badmouth them. I'm not going to tell them basically, your father's ditched us, and that sort of thing. And then one day, Dee Dee and I were talking. And old girl told me that she and her husband were not divorced. So he was living in this nice big house, and Dee Dee and those children were in this trailer on this little patch of dirt, and she drove this car that you could hear from the exit from the interstate, and she wore the same thing all the time, but she did for her children, but she worked hard, and they did not have a lot. And she told me that they were not divorced, and he was living it up with this other woman. And my jaw dropped. But she was not a party girl. She didn't want another husband, none of that. And all she did was work and take care of her children, and she did not care about the rest of that. And a part of me admired her, and a part of me was like, girl, you're better than me, because there is no way that I would let a man disrespect me, like that. He would have to divorce me. So, yeah, that is that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wow. That is wow.
Ooh.
I won't keep anybody in suspense. What happened? Did she find her exit?
Ooh, baby. Now, listen up. This is where the lesson came in. So, one Saturday, I came to work, and I was like, let's get Dee Dee out of here so she can go be with Chuck Norris. Honey, I came in the office. You have those office chairs with the wheels on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dee Dee was like a 5-year-old. The first time they get in one of those chairs, she was zipping around that office, and she was doing everything but going, wee! Like, even when she was talking to me, she was almost singing. And I was like, okay, is there going to be a Walk of Texas Ranger marathon on tonight or something? What is going on? And she told me, she said, Erica, he's dead. And I was like, who's dead? I'm not going to say his name. I'll call him Rick. Rick's dead. Rick's dead. I was like died dead? She was like, yep, he's dead. And I was like, okay. I mean, I didn't expect her to be devastated, but I didn't expect her to do cartwheels either. And I was like, I'm sorry for your loss. I didn't know what to say. And she was like, don't even worry about it. So we only work the weekends. So a week passes, and she comes in, and then she tells me, she said, I won't be here next weekend. I have some stuff to take care of. And I was like, oh, okay, no worries. Dee Dee comes back. She told me she showered and got dressed. She got in her car. She drove to Georgia, and she knocked on that front door, and she told the girlfriend and those children, she said, you're in my house. And you got 10 minutes to get out. And then she said, and you better call your mama to come and pick you up, because you're not leaving in my truck. She said, this house, these vehicles, this land, the insurance money, the pension, I think they were both in the military at some point. She said, all of it's mine and our children. And you gotta go right now. And I didn't know what to think, but I understood that was probably always her plan. But I learned something really valuable. But I was floored. And at first I was like, man, that's a little cold, because those 3 children were little. And she said, but, she didn't have any problem when she was, living in the house with him. And they had children saying, oh, he's going to leave me for you. She was all arrogant and nasty. And so she said she didn't feel any kind of way, because she knew the girl was going to go back to her mom's house or whatever. But I learned a really valuable lesson from Dee Dee's perspective as still the legal wife, and what not to do. There's different kinds of role models from that girlfriend, but that whole situation was crazy. And she absolutely did it. She put her and those children out. She sold everything that she wanted to sell. She collected all the life insurance. And I think I saw her one more weekend after that. And she just told me, basically, it's great working with you. I don't ever have to work again. And now me and my children are going to make up for all of these years that we have had to struggle without anything, because they got everything. They got everything. I mean, it was just the craziest thing, but man, yeah.
Wow. Depending on how you look at it, her patients paid off big time. You know, if not for her, definitely for her children.
Yes, indeed it did. And that's something that gets missed, I think. When you develop patience or any fruit of the spirit, really, it benefits everybody around you. Just like she refused to badmouth her husband to her children, even though he was doing them dirty, she didn't want their opinion of themselves, their self-esteem to suffer, by basically telling them, look, your dad's abandoned you for another family. And I just learned so much witnessing this, namely that patience and pride don't mix, because pride would have been the thing that would not have allowed me to endure that. But let's calm down. I'm gonna calm down and let's take a look in the rearview mirror, Jay. And this is the portion of the podcast where we use the knowledge of hindsight to evaluate our topic. What's in your rearview on this one?
Wow. So patience can look differently depending on the situation. What my boy Greg went through is very different than what Nurse Dee Dee went through. So everything has levels. So we're talking an hour of waiting versus years. What about your review on this one?
I think the most valuable thing I took away was that patience is like exercising. The longer you do it, the longer you can do it. And it's not because that thing gets easier. You just get stronger and you can endure for longer.
Yeah. Psalms 37:7 says, be patient as you wait for the Lord to help you. Trust him to bring help. Do not become upset when bad people seem to do well, when their wicked ideas really happen. That seems like a warning to not get distracted and become impatient because people doing dirt seems to be getting ahead.
Very well said, Mr. Jenkins. So, what's up next Mechanical Monday, sir?
All right, our next episode is titled Backseat Drivers, the Ins and Outs of Advice.
Child, I'm already on 10 and we y'all pull up.
I know. Thanks for stopping by the shop. We trust it helped. I am Juan.
And I'm Ladybug Jenkins.
Reminding you that it's not too late to find, face, and fix what's stalling you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for stopping by the shop. Tune in next Mechanical Monday so you can get the tools to find, face, and fix your mindset and accelerate your life.